Hello, my dear listeners. Welcome back to our reading room. I believe you're all doing well. Today has really been a stressful day, and I know you also went through a whole lot during the day. That is why we need to still read to lighten our hearts and to get some stress reliever. And so today we are still on the book Navigating the Heart. Who is Dragging You? Written by Dr. Oxupak. And then his priority has always been to lighten the tired hearts of youth and people all over the world. Today, we are moving to the third chapter of the book Navigating the Heart. Who is Dragging You? And the third chapter talks about self control. Self control, your ability to control yourself as the safety device to freely utilize your youth. When you can fully trust the function of the brakes, then a car is able to travel at maximum speed. In order to do the things you want as much as you would like, you must nurture your ability for self-control. In other words, you must nurture your abilities and you must hold back from what you want and do the things you don't want. That kind of training to discipline the heart is absolutely necessary. Your ability for self control is the safety device that allows you to maximize your youth. The first story in the third chapter, people who continue to live even though they know they are disease of the heart. When I see the visually impaired, I think about how uncomfortable their lives must be. They cannot see the faces of their families, and they cannot know exactly what the blue sky and mountains look like. How uncomfortable it is for a healthy person to injure his leg and have to lie there, not being able to do anything. He would be counting the days, looking toward a quick recovery. This is also true when your liver or heart is unhealthy. You ask yourself, why do I feel so tired? Why am I so fatigued? And then you get yourself examined at the hospital. When you discover something is wrong, you put all other things aside and address the disease first. Even if you had to spend all the money you have, you would look for the most reputable doctor and even want to receive surgery. People are compelled to heal their diseases and sicknesses when they have ailments in their bodies. However, people are very insensitive about becoming diseased and having diseases of the heart. This is because there is no one who speaks to them precisely about the diseases of the heart. As a result, even though they have diseases in their hearts, they just go on living. People who think that they are great continue to live in arrogance, causing wrinkles and frowns on the foreheads and faces of the people around them. However, because they don't know the world of the heart, they continue living in and enjoying the perception of their own greatness. There are other people who are always falling into feeling of insecurity. They don't know how to repair themselves from that state, All they know is, I feel so insecure in my heart. From that state, they know, and they don't know how to cause this insecurity to depart from them. As a result, they continue living in insecurity. There are those who always pick on other people's flaws, those who always change their minds, and those who close their hearts to others and just live inside their own worlds. As I read the Bible, I felt, ah, this is how our hearts were formed. And I came to know the world of the heart. When I applied the world of the heart to my own heart, strangely, my life began to change so much that I couldn't recognize it anymore. Afterwards, whenever I met young college students, I spoke to them about the world of the heart. They listened to me with much curiosity and sincerity. The next story. The cost of living rightly according to your own heart. A long time ago, as an education committee member at the Suwon and Daejeon prisons, I counseled and taught the Bible to prisoners for quite a while. When I first went to the prisons, I was amazed, thinking, I read about that person in the newspapers, but here he is. In the prisons, I was able to see all the famous people who were featured in newspapers for their crimes. When I went to the Suwon prison, there was a person named Jason Ho who was in charge of gathering the prisoners and assisting me. He was one of the best behaved prisoners in the prison, and he acted as the prison captain. When I would meet and speak with him, he was such a kind and pure-hearted person that you wouldn't expect anything else to come out of him. I became closer and closer to him, and as time passed, I grew curious. What crime did he commit that he ended up here? Did a nice guy like him steal something? I don't think so. Did he commit fraud? I started to think this to myself. It is considered rude to ask prisoners in prison about the crimes they have committed. But my heart of curiosity grew bigger and bigger inside me. One day, the two of us were just sitting down and talking with one another. I finally asked him what crime he had committed. He had been talking very excitedly, but at that moment his face turned red and he answered, murder and attempted murder. I was shocked. What? You killed someone and tried to kill someone else? I could not believe it. In my eyes, it seemed as if he couldn't kill a fly, so I couldn't comprehend how he was able to kill another human being. Afterwards, he told me how he ended up killing someone and how he got arrested while attempting murder. This person lived in Busan, got married, had a son, and was forming a happy family. Even though he didn't make much money from his job, it was enough for him and his family to live on without any shortcomings. One day, however, he could tell there was something strange about his wife. She was hiding something from him. He became suspicious, and after 1 or 2 months, found out that his wife was going out dancing without his knowledge. You should dance at home. I don't know why you have to go out to dance. In my experience, people in Africa dance very naturally in their daily lives. Therefore, people do not consider it a bad thing to go dancing. When I went to a conference in Nairobi, Kenya, one choir said that they could come and perform for me. We asked to borrow the hall at the hotel, and we prepared coffee and tea. The choir came, they sat us down and sang to us. Korean people sing with tension in their faces, but the Africans were singing so freely. The entire choir was dancing and singing together. These unique songs pulled out all the emotions from within. All of a sudden, the leader of the choir told me to come out to the front. He wanted us to dance together. I am unlearned in many things, but I am even more than unlearned when it comes to dancing. However, if I argued about not going up to the front, I thought I would ruin the atmosphere. So I just went up and tried hard to mimic the people around me. But in our country, dancing is considered something bad. When he thought that his wife was going out dancing, he felt as though the sky was crumbling down. But in our country, dancing is considered something bad. When he thought that his wife was going out dancing, he felt as though the sky was crumbling down. He threatened his wife. He begged her and even honestly pleaded, "Please, stop going dancing. Please, stop going out." However, he could not control her. He found out that it was his older sister-in-law who enjoyed dancing, and she was taking his wife with her. When you get married because of your wife. Nobody gets married because of the sister-in-law, correct? One day, this man went to his sister-in-law. "Please, I beg you, stop taking my wife out dancing," he sincerely requested. The sister-in-law replied, "Who do you think you are? You took my little sister, and all you have done for her is made her suffer. How dare you tell me what to do?" She then poured degrading words all over him. At that moment, this man, he just snapped and flipped out. After a while, when he had returned to his senses, there was a knife in his hand, and his sister-in-law was lying down in front of him. With a knife in his hand, he said, "I am going to kill everybody in this family." And he continued the chaos. "It's all over now. You will die and I will die," he said. As he explained the situation, he was telling me, "Even now, I can't really believe that I killed my sister-in-law. Surely, the knife was in his hand, and the blood was on his knife, and he saw that his sister-in-law was dead." In that short moment, when he had lost his mind. That's what had happened. He received his judgment and was sentenced to death. Even though his family hired a lawyer for him, he refused. I am going to die. That's the end of it. I don't need anything, so get out. The third time the lawyer came to him, the lawyer said one thing: Mr. Yu, snap out of it. Do you think I came here to make money? The money I get from defending you can't even buy me one drink. I came here because I felt sorry for your life. And this is your attitude? If you don't want it, forget it. The lawyer then calmed down and spoke to him again, saying, Mr. Yu, come here and sit down. While he listened to the lawyer, he felt he was right. He went to court and was serving his sentence. He thought, I am going to become a well-behaved prisoner and quickly get out of here to get my revenge. I would have my vengeance on those who have destroyed my life. With that heart, he became a well-behaved prisoner. He eventually changed his heart and threw away his hatred and vengeance. He has since released and has formed a new family and is now living a happy life. Even now, I vividly remember everything. He said that he could feel that there was something outside of him which was leading him to the edge, to darkness, and to destruction. There was this invisible tragic force he could feel that was leading his family, his children, and everything else to destruction. Through that story, I was able to know prison is not a place where some special people go. This is how people end up after committing sin. After counseling the prisoners for about 1 year, I came to know precisely why people end up in prison. Of course, this is not true in every case, but prisoners, for the most part, are people who have not lived disciplining their desires from a young age. They were dragged according to the thoughts that arose in their hearts to do, and they do things that they wanted to do. Even though they lived diligently, in one instance, they were unable to control their hearts when it came to women, money, or honor. And oftentimes, the castle they had spent their entire lives building would collapse overnight. The third story in the third chapter. It is the brakes that must overcome the engine. A few years ago, 3,000 college students from all over the world gathered in Korea for the IYF World Camp. At that time, I told them Hyundai Motors can produce a car every 13 seconds. It's now every 5 seconds. One of our African students was completely shocked and said, But Pastor, how can a car be made in 13 seconds? Because of this, I had the students from the World Camp visit the Hyundai Motors factory. When I told Hyundai Motors that there would be 3,000 students visiting, they were shocked and said, Please, bring just 1,000 per day. So, we divided them into 3 groups and visited the Onsan factory. I followed along on the first floor of the factory where they were working on the assembly line. Up towards the ceilings, they made walkways with safety bars for us to tour the factory. From up there, we could see the entire process of how a car is made. There was a conveyor belt installed on the assembly floor, and the car frame was placed on it. The frame would then be carried slowly along on the conveyor belts where the technicians would work on the parts that were in charge of. The first technicians lays the electrical lines without the chases. From the moment he starts until he gets off work, all he does is lay out electrical lines. The next technician places a cover on top of it. The conveyor belt moves on and they install the seats into the car. It is the robot that does this. It is not easy to fit seats into a small cases, but the robots put the seats in specific positions. They then begin to drill. The seats are bolted in and the installation is quickly completed. Soon afterwards, they install the engine. Towards the end of the assembly line is the robot that performs all the welding. This is how 30,000 parts come together to make a car. At the very end, the cars are fueled, driven out of the factory, and parked in a large outdoor parking lot. I actually witnessed a car being completed in approximately 1 minute. If there are 5 conveyor belts such as this one, then it is true that a car is being made every 12 seconds. And when the students who could not believe that a car was made every 13 seconds visited the factory, they simply nodded their heads. At the Hyundai Motor Factory, they always do road tests on fully assembled cars. The most important part of a car is the engine, and the power created from the engine is delivered to the wheels to make the car move forward. The next most important thing is the brakes, which brings the car to a stop, and the most efficient brake system will actually bring the car to a stop even when the weather condition make it seem impossible. Nowadays, even when driving on sheets of ice, a car does not slip when ABS brakes are used. However, when I was young, cars did not have the best braking system. Back then, there would be a wire that would pull on the brakes. So, when you step on the brakes, it was similar to stepping on the brakes when riding a bicycle. Therefore, even though you stepped on the brakes, the car would often slip. If you were in a truck going downhill that had a lot of cargoes, no matter how much you stepped on the brakes, the truck would continue to slip. Therefore, oftentimes, the driver would have to literally stand up and pull on the steering wheel as he stepped down hard on the brakes. While the engine is the part of the car that causes the car to go fast, the car is able to go fast because it has brakes. With brakes, even though the car is traveling at its highest speed, it can come to a stop when there are objects in front of it. On the other hand, without brakes, the car cannot come to a sudden stop. Even though the engine may be strong, if the brake don't work properly, the car can't be driven. It is now a dangerous machine. Of course, good cars need to be able to travel fast, but they also need to be able to stop when they have to. It is for this reason that the technicians pair the engine against the brakes during the final road test. When they step on the accelerator as much as possible and then apply the brakes, should the car stop, continue moving? It should stop. The brakes must defeat the engine. Then it is a safe car. The next story. The engine and brakes of man's heart are desire and self control. The world of a person's heart is exactly like a car. Just as the car has engine, in the person's heart there is the desire that strives to do something. When we see food, we have the desire to eat the food. That apple looks delicious. That ice cream looks good. People who suffer because of money work hard to make money and study to figure out how they can make lots of money. There are also people who yearn to be famous in the future. I want to become a broadcast announcer. I want to become a baseball player. In that way, the desires of our bodies and hearts lead us to certain actions. If young people become lost without any desire at all, then they become good for nothing in life. It is only natural for young people to be filled with curiosity, and it is only natural for them to have many things they want to do. Long ago, when I would go for walks with my son, I would walk straight ahead, but my son would jump round and go into the neighbor's yard to pluck the leaves off the persimmon trees. He would also kick cans that were in front of him. Because I was older, I was able to do those things. But because my son was so full of energy, he couldn't just walk straight. Young people are overflowing with energy, so they want to do things. They even have dreams that are not easy to accomplish. I want to become a great doctor in the future. I want to become a great politician. I want to become a great pianist. I want to become a great soccer player. Because these desires arise in them, even though they want to play, they suppress the desire and instead they study hard and practice. Desire is like the engine of a car. In the same way that an engine causes a car to move forward, there is an engine that leads people to move forward. It causes people to concentrate while studying and allows them to withstand challenges so that they can continue to work hard. But there is something important here. A person should not only have desires, but he or she needs brakes to slow them down. People should not just continue to move forward simply because they want to, but they should also know how to slow down and even stop. Sometimes we want to have fun or play computer games, Then we come to a point when we say to ourselves, I've played the game so long. Now I need to study. This game are preventing me from studying. You should be able to step on the brakes in this way. You absolutely need the brakes of the heart to stop that you are doing and do something else. You should be able to step on the brakes in this way. You absolutely need the brakes of the heart to stop what you are doing and do something else. If you only have desires and no strength to control them, it is like driving a car without brakes. It is so dangerous. When your abilities, the times, or the circumstances do not allow you to do certain things, and you don't have the strength to control yourself, you become miserable. When you build a house, first you design the house and lay the foundation according to those designs. You install the pillars, set up the walls, and then you lay down the roof. In this way, a house can be completed in the proper order. On the other hand, if you thoughtlessly begin with the roof, how difficult would that be? Life is exactly the same. If you think, we can say to ourselves, I have to work hard to get these things under control. Then we make plans. However, if we plan without thinking and only follow our desires, we will fall into hardship. What kind of people fall into drugs? This is the next story. The situation in every country is different, but I once heard that drugs are easily accessible in America. In Korea, drugs are hard to come by, so most students have nothing to do with drugs. However, in environments where drugs are easily placed in their hands, students become largely divided into two groups. There are students who are opposed to taking drugs and students who take drugs and become addicted. Do you know what kind of students are the ones who become drug addicts? They are the ones who overly believe in themselves. One friend says, this is nothing. Just because you do this once, it's not going to be that bad. It's okay. And slowly pressures his friend. At that moment, a student who does not believe in himself will see the drugs and say, if I touch that, I'm going to ruin my life. Like the guy across the street. That guy lives his whole life in darkness because of drugs. I heard that once you fall into drugs, you can never escape them. Then the student will become afraid and avoid it. However, the student who trusts himself will say, okay, just doing it once won't make me addicted. I will just try once and that will be it. And with curiosity, he accepts the drugs. However, when someone does drugs once, the heart of wanting to do it again is greater than before. Doing it twice is not going to affect me. I will just do it a second time and then I'll stop. But after doing it a second time, the heart of wanting to do it again becomes even greater. What? Just because I did it 3 times? Following this pattern, They do it 3 times, 4 times, and later on they will say, forget it, and just throw themselves away altogether. People who believe in themselves fall into drugs little by little and ultimately become drug addicts for the rest of their lives. They eventually end up living in pain and misery. People who believe in themselves do not use discretions. They just think that nothing is a big deal. They consider everything to be insignificant. And if there is a problem, they think, I'll just take care of it then. This is what they think. And most people with this heart wind up in prison or addicted to drugs. We'll end today's reading here and we'll continue the rest of the story some other time. Just as we read, our hearts is just like the engine. Because we have desires, we need self-control, which is the brake. When we are unable to exercise self-control in our daily lives, then distraction awaits us. Why? Because just imagine a car without a brake system. If the brake system of that car is bad, then surely this vehicle or car would just end up in destruction. In the same way, we need self-control because it is normal for youth and young people just as us to have desires. But we need self-control to be able to stand even amidst our numerous desires. Thank you for being with me in this book reading room and see you next time. Remember, a week without reading weakens the brain. So till we meet again, it's a bye-bye.